Okay, I think I'm on, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Maybe? Okay, I think this is it. Let me just copy and paste this link. I don't know why we have. Well, I guess it's not a we thing. I was gonna say I don't know why we have all this mass chaos and confusion every single week, but it's not a we, it's me. Okay, Doug says it is from last week. Hi all. Okay, hi Candy. Hi Dana, I hear you. Hi Doug. Okay, I'm on. I guess we somewhat figured it out, I think. I think. Let me go copy and paste this link in the other support group here. Let's see. And we will get started. Let me close down everything that's going on here. Okay, Doug says you need to send out something so we get the link, I think. Can you see this? I can see that, yeah. So here's the link that I think that it is. But I am not sure. And then I guess the other question is how do we start a new chat? Like, why is this chat overflowing from last week? Okay, Candy made it here okay. True Life, hi. Doug says, I got a link in my subscriptions, so I think everyone will get it too. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I think should be happening. But like Andy says, woohoo, made it. Yes, hi, welcome. Welcome. Hopefully some other people will be joining us here. Do you guys have any idea what I'm doing wrong with the chat? Because what I'm looking at, it shows the chat from like all of the previous live streams. And I don't know how to make it just the chat for now. Let's see. Valenta says, hi, Dana and everyone. Yes, hello, welcome. Okay, you guys see the chat like that too? That's so weird. I wonder if it's always like that and I just never noticed, or like what's going on. So, oh, you only see today's chat. Well, maybe it's just me then. I don't know. I don't know why the YouTube live stream is so complicated for me. I don't know if anybody else has this issue or if it's just me, but okay. Well, I guess people are slowly finding their way here and we're getting it figured out, and you can see me and I can see you, and that part is good. So, how are you guys doing? How is everybody doing tonight? What's on your mind? I can't tell if people are typing or what's going on here. Let's see. Candy says, let's see. Oh, Desiree says, "Hi Dana, your videos have helped me understand so much regarding narcissism. Thank you so much." Good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. It's so nice to have clarity, isn't it? To just to know that it's not you and you're not crazy. True Life says, dealing with some hoovering. This person's coming on strong. Valenta says, I'm about to write to some of my friends a note saying that I cannot keep contact with them. Loke says, oh, great to have you back, Dana. It's nice to be back. Valenta says, because they are friends with my narc and it causes too much pain. Yeah, that's really, really hard. I think anytime that you've got a difficult person in your life and you have to start, people are taking sides and it's uncomfortable like that, then you just it's like you can't just cut off. It's really hard to cut off contact with like just the problematic person. It tends to be that kind of that ripple effect where it's you're cutting off ties with a lot of other people too. I am not wearing my pajamas tonight. I learned that from last week. I am wearing jeans. So Doug says, did you read all the comments from the last video? I read a lot of them. Somebody, it looks like somebody went in and deleted some more. So I don't quite know what I missed last week, but be on your best behavior. So I don't know, Loke, if you were part of the the trouble last week, but let's just all be nice and get along. I don't want to have to ban people. Um, let's see. Brome says, I'm getting the silent treatment from my narcissist. Okay, you can call me Alex. Okay, Alex, I will. Loke says, me. Hey, man, I don't know. I did not read all of the comments all the way through, and some of them were deleted, so I don't know. Let's see. Valenta says, I do not want to tell them he is a narcissist or portray me as a victim or even worse, that he hears I am saying he was abusive. I don't blame you, and I think that's a really great kind of strategy and position to take, because if they're not seeing this side of him, they're probably not going to believe you anyhow. It's not going to do any good. So I think all you can kind of do is just really distance yourself. Just start staying really busy, and you know, just slowly start kind of making new friends, and just they will learn over time if they ever see that side of him. True Life says, love your videos and insight. Grateful for you. Just know this is such a blessing. Keep it up. I am so glad. It is so helpful. It's I love technology, right? Like it's so crazy and cool that we are able to do things like this. And a big part of why I do this is because it's really what I wished I had had when I was going through everything. So it's my way of paying it forward, and I'm happy to be able to do it. And I'm so it's really kind of surreal for me to think that I am at a place in my life where I'm strong enough now that I can actually go out and help other people. I really didn't know if I would ever get to this place. So it feels good to be here. And hopefully someday, you know, when you guys are healed and you're strong enough, you'll be able to pay it forward and go out and give words of encouragement to the next person. Let's see. Andy says, hi, and thank you for your wonderful videos. I have a question about being new to dating and being suspicious about attracting more covert narcissists or paranoid that every person is. Okay, totally common, and very understandable. So, here has been kind of what I have seen and what I have experienced as well. When we go through something that's really traumatic, especially if the person you were with before was more of like an overt narcissist. So if they were really outwardly a selfish jerk, then it makes sense, right? That you're going to be even more attracted to somebody who is incredibly charming and loving and accepting and the opposite of what you went through before. So, a lot of people do tend to get tangled up with covert narcissists after they've been involved with an overt narcissist, because in their mind they're thinking, well, I want to go with the opposite of what I had. What I had before was really bad, so what the opposite must be really good. And the problem is they get tangled up with just a different type of manipulative person. And you know, I dated Jack and Steve almost back to back, and that was really what was going on with that. So, but they were both covert, but it was the same kind of thing. So here's really the best way to keep problematic people in general, whether or not they're a narcissist or a sociopath or just kind of not your people, in your life. The best way to keep problematic people out of your life is with boundaries. And boundaries really honestly, boundaries start and end with how you feel. So if you're going out and you're meeting new people, you're probably going to feel very hypervigilant at first. And that's going to be normal. And I would encourage you, if you're not ready to date too, don't date. Join like meetup.com, spend time with other people, kind of fill those empty buckets of like loneliness or affection or attention in positive ways, so you're not so starved out when you start dating again. So you can be choosy, because it's really hard to be choosy if you're starved out, especially emotionally. And I think that's why a lot of us tend to crash into these like more of like the sociopath, like the superficially charming ones, because we're so starved out and they just really lay on all of that attention and affection really thick that we just gobble it up because we're starved out. So boundaries. So when you start dating, really pay attention to how you feel. If you feel like something is off, something is off. And you're probably going to second guess yourself. You're probably going to have friends and family that are also going to second guess this, or they're going to think that you're being hyper vigilant. But like I talked about in some other videos, what I have really learned is that there's not just normal people and like problematic people, that there's in fact a third level to this, which is healthy. So you have healthy, you have normal, then you have problematic. And the tricky part with this is, because we are our own baseline for normal, healthy people normal people tend to make normal people type decisions, and those often include decisions that tend to be very enabling or disempowering. So it's, you know, healthy people, and that's kind of like, I think the benefit or the upside to coming across a really problematic person is it really just like turbo boosts your boundaries and your level of insight and your level of introspection as to like who you are and what you want in your life. But the so it's I'm sorry, I'm trying to read the chat and talk at the same time, and that is not working for me. So the healthier you get, the less normal people are going to understand this. And so it's going to feel like you're being hypervigilant. But at the end of the day, problematic behavior starts off with that feeling, that initial feeling of, like just that, that's kind of weird. And then it progresses, and it progresses into confusion. And then it progresses into, you're kind of wondering, is it him, or is it me, or is it her, or is it me? And then it progresses into justification, minimization, denial. A lot of cognitive dissonance is what really kind of kicks in. And then after that, it's a lot of these I call them thought holes that people fall into, and that's what keeps them stuck. And so some of the thought holes are, we need to forgive and forget, or no one's perfect, or treat others like you want to be treated. A lot of this, like on the surface, this level of thinking makes sense, but when you're dealing with a manipulative person, that level of thinking, you have to kind of go a little bit deeper. So the whole, well, nobody's perfect. So if you find yourself telling yourself this, right? Like, well, nobody's perfect. And, who am I to judge? These kinds of things. Then you need to talk to yourself and tell yourself, well, you don't need to judge other people, but you are the one that's in control of your life. So it's really important that you have a healthy level of discernment when you're around other people or around new situations. And it's okay and healthy to walk away and to value yourself and value your time and value your emotions. So I hope that helps a little bit. I have a playlist out there. If you go to my YouTube channel, the playlist is called something like How to Avoid Dating a Narcissist, Dating or Befriending Another Narcissist Again. Because I think that you'll find that whenever we have a problematic person like this in our life, you probably have had more than one, and they've probably come in different roles throughout your life, and especially people that you're keeping in your life. So like friends, a lot of us have had friends and other abusive people in our lives. So I hope that kind of helps. So let me scroll up here and see what I am missing here. Okay, Shannon says, why couldn't he just love me? Why does he have to continuously chase other people? Gosh, it's so frustrating. Shannon, I want you to know that his actions do not define you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing that's unlovable or not enough about you. It's a lot of these people, highly manipulative people, narcissists, sociopaths, cheaters, players, there are kind of lots of different names that they go by. This is how they get their ego fed. It makes them feel good, and they feel entitled. They feel like they should be able to do whatever they want to do with whoever they want to do it. And I know it's incredibly hurtful, but please don't internalize that, because this is not about any shortcomings within you. So let's see. Okay, so Will says, when I had some thoughts that my narcissist wife was cheating but could not put my finger on it, a smart guy told me once, listen to that little birdie on your shoulder, and I did, and that birdie is right. Yes, yes. And here's the cool thing too, Will, is that little birdie is right about pretty much everything in your life. So it's not just about your narcissist wife, although you might have only listened to that little birdie because it was an extreme situation, but anything, any business decision, or who you're dating, or decisions about your children, or even little things like what to wear that day, or what route to take to work, or what kind of car to buy, or what to invest in, or what not to invest in, or what kind of house to buy, or where to move. All of these things, that is just kind of this feedback loop that we have inside of ourselves that kind of, I don't know where it stems from, if it's divine, the universe, God, kind of what have you, but that intuition that was the big aha moment for me with my relationship, is it's not wrong. It's really, really not wrong. You might not understand why it could be right, but it's not wrong. So always listen to that. And if you do, if you keep taking steps in that direction and you look inward and you start trusting in your own judgment, your life will be in an amazing place like 6 months or a year from now. It's really, really crazy. Oh, that is so, what a nice compliment. Peace says, "Hi, Dana. Eternal gratitude for your work and your words. It allowed me to make the life saving decision to leave my relationship 6 weeks ago. Your channel has been like a visit to the ICU for my soul." I am so outrageously humbled and honored that my channel has been able to do that for you. So I love hearing from people that have left a really dangerous situation and have been able to get that clarity and started moving down on that journey towards health and healing. Yay you. Yay you. So I'm excited for you and I hope you keep me posted. And I know that you're probably going through a lot of emotional stuff right now, and you probably will be for the next few months at least. But at the same time, I really want you to get excited because this is this new amazing chapter in your life. So that's cool. Oh, okay. Alex says, "I'm so deeply enmeshed. Even my therapist doesn't get the reason I can't let go. I keep praying for the mean phase to go away." I Well, I guess that's intense, and I'm sorry that you're feeling. I'm sorry that you're at this place because I know what a hard place this is to be at. I guess I would encourage you to see about to ask yourself, how can you start getting untangled from this person? How can you start treating yourself with value? Because that's really kind of where this starts, and realizing that you know that you deserve more and that it's not okay for you to be treated like this. And that's that small still voice that we were just talking about with the little birdie, to start taking steps in that direction. It's not easy, but it will be worth it, because these types of relationships, they only ever bring pain. And so you can either feel the pain of leaving now, or you can feel the pain of leaving in 5 years from now. So you're not escaping the pain. Even if the mean cycle goes back to sweet, which it probably will, that person hasn't changed. So that's just something to take into consideration. Okay, so Valenta says, "Oh, you were the one. Okay, I suggested the rescue video last week. I would love to see in it you explaining how these people have no cure and how they are not treating their new supply better, how they only give crumbs and how we are better for being free of them. I totally get it rationally, but emotionally that's another story, and that's why I have some very sad moments." I Yes, okay. So yes, you've got it. I mean, you've got it. So unless a person has a sincere lasting desire to change, they're not going to change. And um if this is the dynamic that you're in and they're only giving crumbs, and it's an abusive, emotionally starved out situation, it's not going to change, and you deserve better. And so you'd mentioned rationally you know this, but emotionally you don't. it's it's easier to get things emotionally when you're not emotionally starved out. And so the best way to not be emotionally starved out is to start, filling up your life emotionally. So it's sort of like going grocery shopping, right? Like, it's really hard to resist temptation and to quote unquote do the right thing and eat healthy things when, if you haven't eaten in 3 days and you go into the grocery store, or even haven't eaten in like 6 hours, and you're gonna buy a bunch of junk. We all do it, right? And that has nothing to do with willpower. That has everything to do with your body is like screaming out that you need nourishment. It's the same thing emotionally. And if you can start, and so, like, what's the solution when you go grocery shopping? The solution is, eat something even like a granola bar, then you go grocery shopping, then you make better decisions. Same thing with feeling emotionally starved out. Spend time with friends. Go to meetup.com. I absolutely love that website. Join like 20 different groups. Get out there and start even getting a massage. I was talking to a friend the other day. We were talking about the importance of touch, especially if you're going through a divorce. There's something that's very healing about touch. And I'm not talking about any kind of like swanky massage parlor. I'm talking about just healing massage and being touched by another human being, or hugged, or just that level of connection is so important. And the more that you get that, the more clear you're going to be thinking, and the easier it is to walk away. It's sort of like, supplementing, kind of filling that void as quickly as you can. The faster you fill the void, the less of a void you're going to fill. Okay, let's see. Desiree says, I don't see my question on the chat. I will try it again. Okay, I did not see it either. So if you could repost it, that would be fantastic. Let's see. Alex says, my narc boyfriend is very self-destructive. Is that common? How common is drug abuse with narcissists? Yes, self-destructive behavior. Well, I guess it depends on what you're calling self-destructive behavior. It's self-destructive behavior as far as like impulsive behavior, like overspending and addiction, and unprotected sex, and financial mismanagement. They're not paying bills. They're that kind of thing is very, very, very common for them, because they tend to live in a moment to moment type emotional place. It's very much like a small child. It's kind of like they're stuck in that stage of emotional development. So that's common. How common is drug abuse? I am not 100% sure as far as drug abuse. I did come across an article a few weeks ago that was written, and I'll have to see if I can find a link to it, some sort of coalition on alcoholism, and they were saying that roughly 50% of alcoholics would also be are also diagnosed as antisocial personality disorder, which is sociopaths and psychopaths, and narcissists I'm sure would fit in there because they're just shades of the same color. Let's see. So many comments. Let's see if I can keep up here. Okay, Jessica is saying, Valenta, they are not better with their new supply. They're going to be the same, only you don't see it. Yes, that's very, very true, because that's how abuse works, right? Like, so abuse happens behind closed doors, but generally to the rest of the world, they do a really great job at putting on this whole front, especially on Facebook, of we're this happy couple and I'm so happy now. I found this perfect person for me, and because they're telling all of their friends and family that most likely you or the past victim was the problem, all of their friends and family are supporting them, and this is of course very crazy making for the victim, because they're thinking the victim's starting to think like, maybe I was the problem. Like, maybe I was asking for too much, and maybe I was selfish. Maybe I'm the narcissist. That's really, really common for victims to really question their own perception of kind of what's going on with that. So Victoria asks, is it wrong that I'm hurt that my estranged husband will not hoover me? And Candy says, no, Victoria, it's normal. I would agree 100% with Candy. I was hurt too that Jack didn't hoover me. And, it's hard because it's kind of just that confirmation of, wow, they really just don't care. But, it's, I know how hurtful it is emotionally, but I think that you're better off if you can just kind of rip off that Band-Aid. The sooner the better. The more you can kind of move through that grieving process, the faster you'll get through it. David is asking Hoover. I'm not sure if you're asking what the word is, David, but I will answer that just in case anybody else doesn't know. The word Hoover or hoovering, it's named after the Hoover vacuum, and it's a technique that's done by manipulative people in order to suck the victim back into the relationship, back into the dynamic. And so it starts off as very innocent forms of communication. So it'll start off like a text message that'll say, hey, what did what do the kids want for Christmas? Or hey, I, got you a Christmas present. Or I'm thinking of you, or hey, how are you? Or, and then it'll kind of progress until if they don't get a response, their attempts at reopening communication tend to progress. So then it might be, I think it could be as extreme as I have cancer. I'm feeling suicidal. Somebody that that we both know has cancer, or they're suicidal, or there's some sort of problem. And it's just this ongoing thing to try to reopen communication. And then the added crazy making thing too with hoovering is because it seems so innocent and harmless. If a victim doesn't respond, again, to other friends and family, they're going to think the victim is being difficult because it's sort of like, why, like that's like you're being drama, like why can't you just get along, because this communication is so innocent. Like, what, you can't just say Merry Christmas, or what, you can't just whatever. And then the victim knows, they're like, no, if I reopen communication, that's when you start getting the like late night texts, or they'll just come by your house, or because it amps up because they're trying to reopen that relationship to get to use the person for additional supply, is the term narcissistic supply. Okay. Screen name with lots of zeros asks, are narcissists in any positions of financial management? 99.99% of the time stealing or committing some sort of fraud. Is that a sure thing? I mean, some of them, do make a lot of money. Bernie Madoff, right? Like, and they don't, sometimes they steal because they have kind of this parasitic existence, because they just have that level of entitlement that they should be able to get whatever they want to get without working for it or without earning it. But then you have some that, those narcissistic or sociopathic, psychopathic traits really do serve them well, as higher ups, as CEOs, as kind of that go-getter personality, because there is no, they do step on people. What is that movie with Michael Douglas, the Wolf of Wall Street? Was that it? Like that kind of personality type. So they can have, you know, lots of money, but they will still feel entitled to other people's. And they're not always necessarily financially irresponsible. Like some may not, embezzle or steal or what have you. This is all of the red flags are kind of just like a broad brush overview of problematic behavior, and some have more in one area and less in another, but it's the same kind of like underlying behavior that erratic, highly emotional, impulsive traits come out in many different ways. And I think the vast majority of people tend to, seek help when they're experiencing some form of like pathological lying, pathological cheating, or pathological stealing, is when they start realizing, this is not normal behavior. Um, Let's see. Alex says, my boyfriend, let's call him D, hung up on me when I asked for emotional support, and when I reminded him of how often I listened to hours of his sob stories and try to console him, he said that's different. Yes, and so that kind of like level of like that lack of empathy and that lack of remorse, and but a lot of people will call it like just this like kind of cold indifference, is probably what most people would refer to that as. That's exactly how that goes, like in motion. It's just this lack of disregard where it's jaw dropping, right? You're like, how I give and I give and I give, and I've always been there for you. And now that I need to talk to you about something, you don't have time, and it's just they just truly don't care, and it's hard for normal decent people for us to wrap our minds around that level of they truly don't care. Like they value marriage and commitment and love as much as they value they value their iPhone more than they value a relationship. Like they don't attach emotionally to people like the rest of us do. And so it's just kind of everybody's replaceable, every relationship is replaceable. Let's see. Yeah, Victoria says, he's only given a crumb here and there. If I contact him for some reason, he says it's a show to come after me. Found out where I lived, and after several weeks, showed up, but still no, I'm sorry. Yes, they don't apologize. Well, I should say, like, kind of more of the, like, overt narcissists won't apologize. Sociopaths will tell you whatever they need to tell you in order to keep the game going. And so but again, like that, don't let me distract you. That the labels don't necessarily matter. What matters is the problematic behavior in general, and spotting that. So okay, Brittany says, I think my narc just married me because it made him look good on paper. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Like the things that they do, and the reasons that they have, because there's no real depth to like any of their reasoning. It's just they're very impulsive. It's not thought through. It's just kind of they want what they want, and they'd rather beg for forgiveness than ask for permission, kind of a thing. um let's see. Okay, let me, lots of comments here. Hold on, guys. Okay, Kai asks, do narcissistic people ignore you to try and make you feel bad? Yes. So there's a couple different ways that this happens. It can be like the silent treatment, which that's a type of like grooming behavior. And so, what I mean by grooming behavior, it means if you're not doing something that they like, then they will try to groom a person. They try to teach the training. It's a training behavior. So they're training a person how to react. And so if you bring up something and they don't like it, now they're giving you the silent treatment for a week or however long, then you or the other victim knows they need to not bring up that again, because that's going to happen. And the silent treatment for any length of time, especially if it's going on for days or weeks, it's almost unbearable. It's so awful. And so the victim will just do, they find themselves apologizing for things that they didn't do wrong in order for just the person to start talking to them again, because it's so uncomfortable. And so the other way that they tend to go silent is if they're lining up additional sources of supply. So if and they tend to always have additional sources of supply in their supply pipeline. So if they're being quiet, if they kind of fall off the planet for a few days or however long, it could be because they are working towards that they're cheating, or that they're doing something else to kind of get that fix from other people. But yes, it's incredibly hurtful when this happens. So it's either to teach you a lesson or it's to line up somebody else. Either way, it's not healthy behavior, and it's abusive. Um, let's see here. True Life says, is it normal to just want to be held every night because your body just aches? Can mind control go that deep? This is the most awkward experience and it really hurts. You know, that's really interesting. And in people, as far as like having physical aches, everybody processes stress differently. So it's not uncommon for people that have depression, that have different forms of PTSD, that have these kinds of reactions after a relationship to have physical pain. So if you're having physical pain, it's part of it and it's part of just moving through it. And so if you are wanting that physical touch, you want to be held, you know, this is what I was talking about earlier, to get that touch, to kind of supplement that in healthy ways throughout your life, so you're not finding yourself, like doing things that you might not normally do because you're needing that reassurance, that you're needing that human touch. So I think a lot of people after these relationships, they feel so damaged, but they want that human connection. They need to be told that you're going to be okay, and they want to be hugged and they want to be loved, that they often find themselves in like a series of one night stands, or kind of, other types of promiscuous behavior that they might not normally be in otherwise, but they need that human connection. So, getting a massage, this can be really good. Spending time with friends. If you have a good friend, one of my best friends, when I was going through everything, she stayed the night at my house, several nights. And it was just kind of that ongoing thing of, I didn't want to be in an empty bed and I didn't want to be alone, and it was just really reassuring to have somebody else there. Support groups are great. I know that they can't be there physically for you, but it's really nice to have that connection, and to be able to say good night to people, or I love you to other people, and that people know what you're going through. And so, yes, the mind control can and does often run very, very deep. Let's see, let me scroll down here. He's texting me right now. It's so difficult not to answer. I don't know your situation, but if you can at all block him, that would be the ideal way to go. And then this kind of goes back to, trying to fill that void. So if you're having that emotional void where you are wanting, don't wait till you're starved out to eat, is kind of what it is, right? So spending time with friends, joining meetup.com. I talk about this website all the time. Let me cross. Oh my gosh, sorry, my couch is not comfortable. Joining meetup.com, getting out there, and joining like 20 different groups. So where you are doing something with different people on a regular basis, you're getting out back into life, and you're having a good time. You can, and they have meetups. They have and it's not a dating site, and it's free. Okay, it's just kind of just good, innocent fun. So it's people that are going to restaurants, or people that are playing trivia or board games or outdoor type things, or kind of what have you. So and a lot of people, I think you'll find, that are in meetup groups are there because they're at some sort of life transition. So either they're new to the city, or they're recently divorced, or they've recently had a baby, or, there's some sort of life transition where they're wanting to go out and make new friends as well. So it's a much better way to go out and meet people than like to jump back into dating right away when you aren't ready. Desiree says, "Oh, you're having technology problems. I don't think that you're the only one. I've seen a couple other comments about that. I don't know what's going on. I hope they get resolved." Let's see. She says, "I left my narcissist almost a year ago, but I'm still grieving. Never looked back and ignored his attempts to communicate." So, yeah, I think everybody works through grief at their own pace and in their own way. And, I when I went through everything I went through with Jack, I'm sorry, my hair is bugging me. I put like way too much argan oil in it this morning, and it's so gross. I can't wait to shower tonight. But my hair, it's like a combination of spiky and gross. So that's why I keep messing with it. So I'm sorry. But yes. Okay. So the grieving thing. So when I found out everything with Jack, I did the same thing. I did not look back. He I think had emailed me a couple times with some really snarky emails. It was incredibly painful. I was I was once I found out the truth that it really was, like, to the extent that it was incredibly painful. I didn't know about support groups. I didn't even think to go onto YouTube and to look at stuff. I really wish I had, because that that first year or so after this relationship, especially if you don't know what you've been through, there's so much crazy making that you have to untangle to figure out what really happened, what is it him or is it you, or you know just kind of what you went through. And so I think the more clarity you get as far as what you went through, and again, a lot of that really does come from YouTube, and thankfully there's lots of different YouTube channels that discuss all this out here. I saw Randy, I think she's still here, Randy Andretti has a channel on narcissism, and she is fantastic. So go check out her channel for sure. But there's lots of other people out there. There's lots of support groups. I think the sooner you get clarity, and you kind of get that sense of peace that this was not a normal relationship. This is not your fault. That this person's behavior is not a reflection of you. You don't need to let this affect your self-esteem. I know that's a lot easier said than done, but because their cold, calloused, indifferent treatment to you, it has nothing to do with you, and you are lovable. You are enough. And to not internalize this, but it does. It can take a while to move through. But again, I think what often helps with that grieving is to fill that void that's left. If and to just get really, really busy. I tell people all the time, my mantra, when my life totally imploded, was, the best revenge is a good life. And just keep telling yourself that, and then to just steer your mind into the best revenge is a good life. And so what does that good life look like to you? And to get crystal clear on that, and to really start filling your brain with positivity and inspiring things. And this doesn't mean to ignore the hurt or the pain, but this just means to make that conscious decision to set down the hurt, every day. And then you can pick it back up when you want to, but filling up your brain with things that are really positive, and realizing that there is a future past this, and that you can heal. And doing a vision board, I'm a huge fan of that. It's where you really get a poster board and you put on there different pictures of things that resonate with you. So maybe different empowering words, things like, you are loved, or you deserve the best, or things like different kind of affirmations and different pictures of kind of what you want in your life, and then to really start steering in that direction. Because the more you fill that void with joy and with love and with this kind of life that you really want, you're not going to miss the drama, the dysfunction, the pain of what was. So I hope that kind of helps a little bit. Let me scroll down here. Okay, lots of zeros mentions. That's interesting. It says, "Oh, I don't think you've ever spoken about the term sociopath, but it was actually coined to describe the antisocial behaviors of the psychopath. There's no such thing as a sociopath in and of itself. There's so much like debate and confusion about this terminology. I was always taught that it was originally there was the terminology of sociopath, and then there was the terminology of psychopath, and that they were two different things, and then they were then blended into one, which and then you now have kind of antisocial personality disorder. If you what is his name, Dr. I want to say Robert Hare, really interesting guy, really wrote a really great book on psychopaths and kind of psychopathy and different behavior. And he tends to think that there is a difference between the two. But again, to me, it's really splitting hairs, and I see a lot of people, myself included, get hung up in the differences. And to me, it's sort of like trying to figure out which poison you're drinking. Is it strychnine or is it arsenic? Like, you know, does it matter? That's what I encourage people. Like, if it's poison, it's poison. And the bigger issue is to be able to identify like what is the poison in your life. And because it's not just the psychopaths or the antisocials or the narcissists, right? It's like that's an extreme example of what's poison. But if we start to kind of, get a more aerial view of our life, and we start to really see, what is toxic for us, because there's probably more than just that one person, and really starting to identify behavior that is toxic for us. I think that's one of the big learning lessons in this for all of us. Let's see. Alex says, could sexual abuse by family members at an early age be a major cause of developing into a narcissist? Because this happened to my boyfriend. I mean, it could be. So they're kind of like what triple. I'm not. I don't even know what to call this zero. It's like 15 zeros. We'll just call this person lots of zeros. That's their screen. Like lots of zeros mentioned. There's you know describing the behavior of a psychopath. So there's kind of this whole like nature versus nurture debate, right? And so you have these theories on how is personality formed, and that some people tend to think that personality is formed kind of like concreted, formed by like the age of 7. And but then you've got other people that are saying, well, the brain really develops until we're about 27, and so personality is still can be fluid until a person's about 25, 27. And then but the new information's coming out all the time, so it's hard to really say anything for certain. But so the two main camps there are nature versus nurture. So then the whole nature would be that this is kind of, you've got a person that's got some areas of their brain that are not as developed as a quote unquote normal person's. So the areas of the brain that control guilt and impulse behavior and remorse, these things they do, and they have done brain scans, and they have shown that those areas have a decreased level of reactivity. So there is that nature argument for it. Then there's also the nurture argument, which states that kind of narcissists tend to come from other narcissists, and that they were raised in an abusive environment themselves. Who's to say? It's probably a little bit of both. I've talked to several different parents who have been absolutely beside themselves, who they were like, they had, and this was actually the situation too with Jack and Steve, although I never talked to their family, but where their siblings were all fine, but they were not. And their parents even knew that Jack's family had pretty much cut contact with them. Steve's had as well. Steve's mother at one point had even told his wife, or I'll call her Molly, had told Molly that that his Molly had told me that his mom had pulled her aside at one point and had said there that something was really wrong with him, that he lacked the ability to love, but her other kids were fine. So, and I've talked to several parents who have said the same thing, that they don't know where they went so wrong. Their other kids were fine. It was just this kid has been, conduct disorders before the age of 15, in and out of juvenile hall, in and out of trouble with school. Just that callous lack of empathy, that lack of remorse, that's progressed to really, really problematic behavior. So, it could be a contributing factor, but regardless, it still doesn't make his behavior okay. And so a lot of us victims, we are really, we have a ton of empathy, and we want to give people the benefit of the doubt, and we have a hard time leaving people if we think that they're kind of this baby bird with a broken wing, right? And if we can stay, that maybe somehow we can help heal them, and that we can love them, and that through enough love or time or therapy or religion or support or what have you, that they will change. And what ends up happening is change doesn't work that way, right? Like, a person has to really, really want to change in order to change. And we end up oftentimes sinking ourselves so that they might swim. But so it's okay to have compassion, but don't let that compassion, but you need to have compassion for yourself as well, I guess is what I'm saying. So it needs to be a two-way street there. You can't give this other person love and compassion at the expense of giving yourself love and compassion. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Starry says, Dana, there is a new kind of thinking about codependence, like the fact it has become a kind of racket for big pharma and therapy. What do you think about it? Honestly, I think it's the exact opposite. Codependency, man, if big pharma like really wanted to make some money, they'd come up with a pill or something for codependency. Codependency is one of those is weird things that it's a term that's really nebulous. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and it's it, you know I could go like this whole like codependency thing and abuse and all of it just makes me nuts, because what tends to happen is abusive people tend to be identified as male and victims tend to be identified as female. And I think it's really hard for men to get adequate diagnosis of what's going on in their dynamic and to be correctly diagnosed as having issues with codependency. So the racket that I do think, I don't even know if I'd say it's a racket. I don't think, if you're going to find a therapist, finding a good professional in any field is really, really hard, whether it's a therapist or a realtor or an investment banker or a babysitter. Any profession is really, really hard. And not all professionals are created equal. A good therapist is worth their weight in gold, but a bad one, you could be in therapy for decades and not get anywhere. And so, but a lot of people have this idea of, well, this person is a professional, so they know more. And so, well, kind of, they think to themselves, well, who am I to question them? This just must be how long it takes for me to work through my issues. And it's hard, and that could be too, but it's hard to untangle if it's them or if it's the therapist that doesn't have the skills to really kind of get them to where they want to go. So, it's hard. And, narcissistic abuse in general is really not really widely taught. And I think what is taught about it is oftentimes very inaccurate and a very limited picture. If it's taught, it tends to be more in the context of domestic violence. So again, you have that that physical abuse dynamic where you have a male abuser and you have a female victim, and I've seen this time and time again where it's like men that are in these situations, it's not identified as a problem. What I do think is really problematic is because emotional health in general is not taught. People do tend to get on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and and a lot of mental health professionals, psychiatrists, psychologists, or mainly psychiatrists that are doing the prescribing for medications, or nurse practitioners, or whoever's doing the prescribing, tend to not dig deeper and examine, like, maybe the fact that you're needing antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication is because you have a really problematic person in your life, and maybe it's that relationship is causing you so much stress and strain and depression. So I don't think that, if anything, I don't think that they tend to often go deep enough when it comes to examining issues. It's just pills are passed out, and it's really frustrating because those feelings of depression and anxiety, there's no, okay, so like there's no such thing as a bad emotion. Like, there's uncomfortable emotions, right? It's not fun to feel severely depressed or suicidal or incredibly anxious. But those are all signals that something needs to change in our life. And when we kind of numb ourselves out, when we're drinking or doing drugs or having a lot of sex, or taking antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication, if we're not dealing with the underlying issue, then we're cheating ourselves out of the opportunity to use those negative emotions as a sign that, hey, we're off track. Like, we need to get back on track. And so to take that, and I'm not saying to not necessarily take medication. I definitely think there's a time and place for it, but to realize that those feelings mean something. And so to start finding, what does bring you happiness and peace and joy in your life, and then start moving in that direction, because that's what those feelings are signaling to us. It's sort of like our body when we're hungry, it signals that we're hungry, right? Like, your stomach starts grumbling and you have that sensation of hunger, or you have the sensation of thirst, or you have the sensation of fear. Like, our body gives us all these different sensations when it wants us to take action. And so anything that's really, I think you can kind of even like lump it down into two distinct things. You have sensations that are pleasurable, and you have sensations that are painful. And when we have sensations that are painful, it's because it's our body or brain, our way of kind of propelling us forward to go get those needs met, to go eat, to go get a glass of water, to go, if you're feeling lonely, it's to go meet new people or to hang out with people. If you're feeling sad, it's time to bring some more joy into your life. Something's not working. Our feelings are kind of like, if you think of our bodies as a vehicle, like as a really high end sports car, because that's really kind of what it is. Like, the human body, the human brain is this fantastic machine that we all kind of don't get the instruction manual for, and which is unfortunate. But you know, when you're driving a car and you have those warning lights coming on, like it's low oil or check engine, like, to me, that's what our emotions are telling us. And we run into problems because we tend to overlook those as the major warning signs that they are. And so that, and I mentioned this in the last video, but this white bird up here, this little dove guy, that was my aha moment with Jack. Was the one thing that I knew for certain was I needed to follow my peace. I, I, I missed a lot. I glossed over a lot of red flags. They weren't super major red flags. There were probably a lot of red flags that, like, a quote unquote normal person would have glossed over, but I knew something was off and I chose to move forward anyhow. And that's kind of the lesson in that. So when you're having these feelings of depression, anxiety, kind of what have you, to take a moment and to really examine why, and to figure out what you need to do in order to kind of get things back into alignment, back on track. So I hope that helps. And so then I've mentioned this before too, but so then the added aha moment was, oh my God, I hadn't been just ignoring these warning lights and these red flags with Jack. This had been a pattern throughout my life. I really had not tuned in to kind of my, internal guidance system. And really none of us do, because we're not taught to do that. And that's a shame, because that our lives would be radically different if we really listened to that inner voice at all times, because it's never wrong. I mean, I can look back at my own life. Different houses that I've bought over the years, I never had a good feeling about. It never went well. Like relationships that I had an off feeling about didn't end well. Friendships that I had a funny feeling about, or even not even right away, but when I started having that funny feeling, didn't go well. And I think you can probably think the same in your own life. When you had that feeling that something was off, or something wasn't quite right, or that feeling of hesitation, that voice was right. And so there's a saying out there. There's a guy by the name of Joseph Campbell, and he coined the phrase "follow your bliss." And there is so much truth to that. And frankly, that's probably where I got the whole follow your peace from. I don't remember ever seeing the phrase follow your bliss, but I'm sure that I probably did, because that's like too much of a coincidence. But my guess would be, if I did see that phrase, the follow your bliss, that I probably thought to myself, I'm not even going for bliss. Like, I'm just going for not trying to be miserable. And I had to my starting point was, how about if I just follow my peace, and then I can stair step up the path to eventually bliss. But his saying, follow your bliss, he's absolutely right. And so that's kind of the whole kind of like next stage to this is to not move forward on something, not only if you don't have peace, but don't move forward unless you are like jumping up and down for joy. Like, don't get married to somebody unless you are absolutely thrilled. You cannot wait to run down the aisle and marry them. It's not normal to have cold feet. See, there's all these things that we say in society that are just it's just different forms of cognitive dissonance, right? Like, it's just, well, this is somehow normal to have these hesitations and reservations. No, it's not. It's not. Like, listen, and you know your situation the best. If you look inward and you really listen to yourself, you have all of the answers inside of you. It's such a gift. I mean, that's kind of the gift of dealing with these relationships, is discovering who you are. And then kind of the added benefit of discovering who you are is, you're going to have these really amazing boundaries, and you're just not going to get tangled up with problematic people or problematic situations, because you're just keyed in to what is healthy and right for you and the path that you need to go on. It's just, and I don't think it's necessarily like this hippie woo woo like mystical thing. Honestly, like what I think that it is that feeling of it. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have I think I talked about this before, but there's this whole concept of three brains. So we have our like reptile brain, we have the mammal brain, and then we have the neocortex, or the thinking brain. Each of those three brains signals has a different function, and it signals to us in different ways. And so the reptile brain is more of that fight or flight, feed or breed, rest or digest, fear. It's kind of just the primitive emotions. And so, but the reptile brain, here's what's really cool. Okay, the reptile brain processes in like all information. Okay, that information then kind of like floats to up to our emotional brain, or the limbic system is really what it is. And then there's this whole feedback loop inside of our body that involves the limbic system, and it's through the mammal part of your brain down to your stomach. And so that's why we have like what we call a visceral reaction to things. So you might feel butterflies in your stomach when you're excited, or you might feel like you want to vomit when you get really bad news. That's why. So your body's processing information, but here's the thing: is it hasn't surfaced to the front part. It hasn't surfaced to the thinking part of your brain yet, and so that's why these red flags, these funny feelings, don't make sense, and that's why we tend to gloss over them, because we're not taught that these other two brains are going on, and that they signal to us in different ways. And so our thinking brain thinks to itself, well, that's not logical or rational, because, well, I didn't, it must be me, or it must be some other reason. When in fact, no, what really happened is that that information came in through the reptilian part of your brain. It By the time it got to the thinking part of your brain, only about 20% or so of that information actually got to the thinking brain. So what it really is we're processing so much more information than we can even begin to comprehend. But so you have to just kind of trust that there's a lot of stuff that's going on around us that we don't see and that we don't comprehend. And so I think that's kind of the cool thing about it, is it doesn't need to be, I mean, I'm all for hippie woo woo, but it's not necessarily hippie woo woo. I think there's a real scientific explanation behind it. And so if you can really acknowledge that and appreciate that, and see those, or understand those feelings, those perceptions that you have in that way, then I think you'll be more inclined to actually move forward with them. So that was kind of a tangent there, but let me see. True Life says, I don't trust my friends. I am so happy to have this chat. Is such a great support. Oh, I'm so glad that this chat can be a great support. And the not trusting your friends. So Jessica, I'm sorry, just scroll down real quick to read Jessica's comment about what is with this uncomfy couch. This uncomfy couch, Jessica, real quick, was supposed to be temporary, and it's like a futon, but it was like a really cheap futon, and there's a bar that runs right through the middle of it, and yeah, it's not. It's not. Someday I'll get like real furniture, but I don't care enough to, I guess. Okay, so back to True Life. I don't trust my friends. So I would encourage you to do some soul searching. So why do you not trust them? Is it because that they're not being supportive of your situation? Because that's oftentimes what happens, because they don't understand. Any form of abuse is really hard to explain to other people, because other people tend to have this idea in their mind of what abuse looks like, and what an abusive relationship looks like, and what an abusive person looks like, and what a victim looks like, right? So it can make a lot of people really paranoid, and not want to open up to their friends or family or even therapists, because they're just kind of, they feel like nobody's believing them and everybody's blaming them. So ask yourself, is that kind of what's going on? Or is this also a sign that maybe you do have some people that you are calling a friend that maybe isn't a friend? Because again, like I'd mentioned before, there's oftentimes when we find ourselves with a really problematic person in our life, they are kind of the fire that we can't deny, but there's a lot of other smoke that's going on in our life. And so, it's really hard to take a look around and to examine kind of where else has this been problematic in your life. And maybe this is, it's not, but odds are it probably is. It was for me. So something, and I think it is for a lot of people. So it's just something worth examining. And again, going with your gut instinct, and seeing, why am I considering this person a friend? Like, have they acted in a loving, supportive, compassionate, empathic kind of way, or are they just hanging out? Because again, a lot of times if we find ourselves settling for crumbs in one area of our life, we also might be settling for crumbs in another area of our life. And so we're considering these people to be friends, but really they're not. Let's see. So support groups can be great. And here's kind of the the thing with support groups too is I think that you will find that there are a lot of really cool, like-minded people in these support groups. I mean, we joke about that a lot in the different support groups that I have, because it's like, where have you guys been? Like, we all look around and we're like, these you guys are like my people, right? And I think everybody feels the same way, because it's like, wow, okay, I've been wanting to make friends or meet or date or whatever people that were like kind and compassionate and caring and considerate. And a lot of us victims tend to have that common thread between us. And so I think support groups can be a really great place to really find a lot of really great people. Okay, Brittany says, I've noticed that I've become so paranoid with my personal friendships because of this relationship. I don't know who really has my back. Again, totally common. Because trying to explain to people what happened, they don't understand. And, you know, it's hard. There's a lot of unintentional, I think, victim blaming that goes on, because victims don't understand how they got in this relationship. Nobody voluntarily signs up to be abused. Really, I mean, I guess you could make some like really fringe like BDSM stuff, yeah. But like, by and large, people do not sign up to be treated like garbage in any way, shape, or form. And so it's like a slow process of just manipulation, right? It's the whole analogy of like, how do you boil a frog? Well, the answer is you put it in a pot of lukewarm water, you turn the heat up. That's how abusive relationships happen. It's a gradual process. The victim begins really questioning themselves. Is it me, or is it him, or is it her? And then friends and family don't see it, and then there's no shortage of well-intended bad advice, where they'll say, well, no relationship is perfect, and forgive and forget, and who are you to judge, and you know treat others like you want to be treated, and all relationships have highs and lows. The victim might, if the victim has been in a bad or abusive relationship before, they might be telling themselves too, well, it's not that bad. At least he doesn't hit me or rape me or break bones or molest my kids. And so that's the added danger too of being in abusive relationships, is the longer the person stays in it, kind of the more this becomes the new normal. And it's harder for them to get out of it, because by the end of it, really, really extreme, dangerous, or destructive behavior hasn't is it no longer registers as problematic behavior. It's just become normal. I can't tell you how many emails I get from people. It's just heartbreaking, where they'll say, he's threatened to kill me, or she's threatened to kill me. But more often than not, those kinds of emails tend to be with female victims. But I'll get emails, he's threatened to kill me. He's threatened to kill my kids. He beat me up and put me in a hospital, or I was in a coma for 4 days. But I'm not sure if I'm in danger. Like, he's threatened to kill me. He threatened to kill me last night, but I'm not sure if I'm in danger. But in as an outsider, right, as like this kind of neutral third party to this, I'm reading this, and I'm wanting to yell, like, run! Like, you need to run! Like, this is a very, very dangerous person. People, if anybody ever threatens you, if they ever talk about killing you or your kids, that should be taken seriously. I don't care. I please, again, like, this is the whole like go with your gut thing on this. Like, don't listen to anybody but you, because a lot of people might not take it as seriously as it really is, because everybody's operating from their own standpoint of like, what is potentially really dangerous behavior, or what dangerous behavior looks like. Just always err on the side of caution. So I know that was kind of a rant that I went on, but so I'm sorry. Back to the, you don't know who really has your back. So it's really common to feel really paranoid, and especially if if the relationship that you were in, the person was Prince Charming, and then you found out that they had this double life, and didn't, that was kind of my realization. Like, not only does this person not love me, they obviously don't even like me. I think Jack wanted me dead. So that was a real mind scramble for me to try to work through, and to, I just didn't know where I went wrong. And I thought, here I was thinking he was my best friend, and really he was my worst nightmare. And how could my judgment have been so off? So it does take time. Talking about these relationships in support groups, I think, can be really, really helpful, because because everybody there has your back. Nobody is doubting you. You know, we all have gone through these kind of like lifetime TV movie scenarios. So it's nice to have your back. And then when you're with your friends, to just kind of realize, if they're not fully supporting you, or supporting you in ways that you need to be supported, it's not because they don't have your back, it's because they just don't understand. So that was kind of a long-winded explanation, but yeah, sorry about that. So let's see. Okay, Victoria asks, is there a suggestion with how to retrain your thinking so that I'm not needing his approval, as I was trained by him to ask him first for everything, yet he never asked me? Okay, so Victoria, the core of an abusive relationship is all about power and control. And everything they do is about power and control, and it's always this kind of win-lose dynamic that they create. And so this whole, this one-way street kind of a thing, right? Like, it's, you need to ask for permission, but he never asks you. That's what power and control looks like in motion. And so, or power and control over another person or over a situation. So what can you do? Now that I don't think that you're still in this dynamic, if I remember correctly, but if you're no longer there, to verbalize out loud, like, okay, and do something, if you're no longer in this relationship, do something that he would not approve of. So, if he didn't like you wearing red nail polish, or black nail polish, or, putting a purple streak in your hair or something, to go do something like that. And then to tell yourself, this is me reclaiming my power and control. I am going to paint my toenails red because I can. And you just keep telling yourself, this is me. I don't need anybody's approval. I am an adult. This is what I want to do, and I'm doing it because I like it. And, and it's going to take some practice, but I think the more you can kind of hook up, kind of articulate that using different parts of your brain to process that you're reclaiming your power and control, the more you can start moving forward with that, and getting okay with, owning your life. Okay, Alex says, I did check out meetup.com, but I'm in no mood to socialize. I can't even bear talking with my roommate, who is very concerned about my state of mind. So, Alex, this is very normal. A lot of people, when these relationships end, they want to isolate. I did this as well. I didn't want to see friends or family. I didn't want to talk on the phone. I didn't want to go on Facebook. I did not want to be around other people. I think that this is very normal. So, I would encourage you, however, to reach out, so you don't shut down completely. Reach out to somebody. So support groups can be great for that. Because here's kind of the thing, and I don't know if you're going through this, but I definitely went through this, where not only did I not really want to be around people, I for sure did not want to be around happy people or happy couples, because it was just kind of this reflection as to what I didn't have in my life. And that can be really painful. Again, this is a great, support groups can really be helpful for that, because you can talk about how you're really feeling. People are not going to feel like you're this big wet blanket, and people are not going to be well, and depending on the support group, they're going to be talking about how they're coping with their issues. They're going to be at about that same level of understanding and healing. And the healthier you get and the better you're feeling, then, a lot of people tend to leave support groups because it can be really intense to kind of be in that space for a long time. But I found that they can be very, very healing, at least for the first few months. And, then going from there. That's why I always encourage people join a handful of different support groups. There's a ton of them on Facebook. Mine is on Facebook. My support group, I think it's called Narcissist Support, and then in parentheses it says from YouTube. It's a closed group, which means that your Facebook friends can see that you're in the group, but they can't see what you're posting. And then I also have a support group on my website if people want a group where it's not like linked to a profile, but the group on my website, that's totally open. So people, anybody can read what you're posting. But if you just leave it vague enough, then, it's, don't worry about it. And I would say too, so the whole like no mood to socialize, to set a limit for yourself, because you don't want to stay in that stage for longer than you have to be, and it can be very easy to stay there for a long time. So to tell yourself, okay, you know what, for like the next X number of days or hours or weeks, or kind of, I would encourage you to not go further than that, to tell yourself, okay, I'm not going to socialize for like the next 4 days. But then I am going to at least get out of the house and go see a movie. Or I'm going to, you know, go do something, go be around people, because that level of depression, that can really just be all consuming, and it can be a very scary and dangerous and lonely place to be in. So I would encourage you to socialize after a certain point, even if you don't feel like it. And so if you're telling yourself, well, I just don't feel like it, you just tell yourself, well, that's nice, go do it anyhow. So like for me, after everything ended with Jack, I was in such a low place. I didn't want to shower. You know, didn't, I just didn't want to do anything. And I lived alone. I lived way up in the mountains, away from friends and family, and got to the place where I had to tell myself, I'm like, Dana, you need to get out of bed. You need to go take a shower. Do this. Right foot out of the bed, left foot out of the bed. Get your body into the shower. And so finding your fight is what I would refer to it as, like finding that inner strength to pull you out of this. Because the best revenge is a good life, and you don't want to be, that bitter, jaded person. You don't want it. That does absolutely nothing. And that is definitely, it may not feel like it right now, but it is a choice. Like, you do not have to be sad and lonely and bitter and jaded. Especially, down the road or years later. So just kind of realize that, like telling yourself, and I think I talked about this too in another video. Um, I had made the decision that this is not going to ruin my life. And there was a lot of power in just declaring that, even though I didn't know how I was not going to let this ruin my life, because my life really imploded. I had a ton of things, you know, after Jack and then after Steve. And it was, it just, my whole life just blew apart. Like, I'm not quite sure, you know, how much more I could have gone through. But just knowing that I was not, yeah, I was in a bad place. I was in hell, but I was still walking, and I was not going to give them the satisfaction of destroying my life. So keep walking, my friend. Just keep walking, because it does get better. It will get better. So let's see. Scrolling down to get some more comments. Jessica says, when I was super depressed and immersed in the relationship, I didn't even think to Google narcissism. Is it sad that I was searching, am I crazy? No, you're not. Because like, I don't, I don't even know. You know how, actually, no, I came across, I wasn't searching for narcissism either. I first came across, I was thinking that Jack was a sex addict because I had found he'd been sleeping around with like dozens, if not hundreds of people. And that's what I thought it was. And then I had joined some like sex, like partners of sex addict type groups. And that was when I came across the word narcissist and began digging deeper. And people were giving these other people advice like, this person's not going to change. It was like so much the same behavior that I was experiencing. It was just uncanny. And so I just kind of was, going down this rabbit hole of things. I think a lot of us do that, you know, and yeah, wondering if you're crazy. That's really, really common. I think too, the question of, it starts off right when you're with a manipulative or abusive person. The question starts off: is it them or is it me? If we stay in that situation, that question then progresses: am I the crazy one? And so I think it's a pretty safe thing to say if you're wondering if you are crazy, if you're wondering if it's him or her or you, it's, yeah, you're in a bad relationship and you need to go. Because normal people, healthy people in a normal or a healthy relationship do not wonder these things. And so that I think is a real great shortcut to, if you're getting out there again, or if you're wondering about other people in your life, coworkers or friends, and if you're thinking, yeah, I don't know, like, are they being drama or is it just me? Like, if you're wondering that about other people, it's not you, it's them. Unless, of course, you wonder that about every single person, which, then it might be you. But odds are you don't, right? Like, I don't walk around wondering if, you know, and it'll be specific. Like, if you find yourself like questioning specific things, like, is he flirting with the waitress or do I just have issues? Something like that. Or I think this person might be lying, but I'm not sure because I dated Jack and Steve and I dated liars. Like, if you're wondering something specific, like, I'm wondering if they're lying. I wonder if they're cheating. I wonder if that's being inappropriate. I wonder if this person is really being selfish. If you're wondering specific things like that, then it's for a reason. And the reason is you're seeing things that you don't want to come to terms with the fact that you're seeing. So let's see. Let me scroll down here. Victoria says, try the original Moroccan oil. I like that much better. Yeah, I'm going to have to try something else because I feel really gross right now. Lots of comments. Let's see. Lotus Lady asks, do you worry that a lot of narcissists are tuning in? Yes and no, I guess. I've had a couple of concerns, like safety wise, since I've started my channel. Like, my channel was, it was suspended. Actually, Randy and I were out having a drink, and when my channel went down for a week, and that was incredibly stressful. I still don't quite know like what that was about, but or kind of where, like, who was the cause of that. I had one guy leave a very, very disturb, like when I got onto YouTube, you expect some trolls, right? Like, it's the internet and people are going to say crazy, ignorant, hateful stuff. I signed up for that, right? I'm sharing my story. I'm putting myself out there. I'm kind of used to comments now that are just like, I'm used to the trolls. However, it's really unsettling. I got one comment that was very graphic about the way that what this person was going to do to me, and I won't go into detail, but it was very, very, very disturbing. There was that. I had another guy that was like avidly, well, like stalking me online. That ended. So that's kind of my concern, is more for like my personal safety, definitely the safety of other people. On this channel, I hope that people are, being careful about their names and these kinds of things in their situations. But yeah, Lotus Lady. Yeah, she says, "I'm sorry you had such disturbing comments." Yeah, and like, so here was the thing too. So I belong to this YouTube group, and I'm sorry, I cannot read and like talk at the same time. The 000 person says, "You got a death threat." Yes, it was a very explicit death threat, and it talked about what they were going to do to me. It was from a person who I'm guessing was probably mentally ill, because it was just a very, very deranged comment and very unsettling. The thing with YouTube, so like when you report a comment like that, if you report it, it like deletes the comment, and you can't, like, I didn't write down the person's name. I was going to like report it and that was it. But they're banned from my channel. They can't come back. But then that's kind of scary too, because then you don't know, where they are, or yeah, it's scary. So then I went to this YouTube group that I'm in, and I had said, hey, this was the comment that I got. Like, this is outside of like a trollish comment. Like, I feel like I need to call the police and report this. And then it was very kind of re-victimizing there, because people were like, "Oh, if you can't handle trolls, you shouldn't be on YouTube," and blah blah blah. And I was like, no, like, this isn't trolls. Like, this is like not nor this is a death threat. So not cool. But Alex says, keep that bear mace nearby. I need to buy some for myself. I don't even know if I can get it in my state. I don't know if you can get it in your state either, but I'm pretty sure you can order it online. So through Amazon, or maybe like an outdoor, like, some like REI or someplace like that, you can maybe do that. Lotus says, follow your own advice, Dana. Trust your instincts. Yes. Yes. I have become very, very aware, believe me, of my surroundings. When I started this channel, I really, I don't know. I didn't think a lot of things through as to the extent that I wish I would have. But, it's sort of like, once we know better, we can do better. And so now I'm trying to kind of figure out what I can do better. Alex says, not saying what state I'm in for safety's sake. I don't blame you. I think that's a good idea. YouTube commenter says, narcs are wussies, and so internet is great for threatening and disrespecting people in ways they wouldn't in person. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I get some trolls, and like, you can tell they're like kids, they're like teenagers, and like, that kind of stuff, just, it doesn't bother me, but it makes me wonder like what the world is coming to, because I would have never ever ever dreamed to disrespect an adult, I guess, when I was that age, let alone an adult who's talking about supporting abuse victims. Like, WTF, like, what is wrong with people? And especially an adult who's gone through abuse. Like, there's just so many levels of the, wow, like, those kinds of people are just, that's ridiculous and disgusting. So let me scroll up and see if I can get some more comments here. Okay, Cecilia, you bring up a really great point. Oh, wait, actually, before I get into that, Lotus Lady says, I've wondered, I think that my ex has actually commented to me in one of these live chats. So, yes. And so this is something that I think is important to bring up, because this was not something that I thought about when I joined support groups and things like this. which made me feel very like ignorant and gullible and frustrated and discouraged, is yes, a lot of times narcissists and other manipulative people will join support groups because they like to troll, they like to instill fear in their victims. This is why I encourage you guys to have anonymous names when you come onto this YouTube chat, and to if you're going to join any Facebook groups that have to do with narcissism or sociopaths or kind of what have you, to get a fake account with a real name. So make sure that you get a real name, like Jane, I don't know, like Cannonberry or something, like a real name. So if you don't, then Facebook will shut it down if it's a fake name, or you run the risk of Facebook shutting it down if it's a fake name. So getting a real name and then joining different support groups under that fake name, so it can't be traced back to you. And this is why I have different support groups for like different levels of security and safety. But I did when I first got in, like when I first stumbled across support groups online, it did not even dawn on me that like narcissists or sociopaths would be in the support groups. Like I don't know why that didn't dawn on me, but it really just didn't. So, but yes, they are out there, and it's just kind of, we just have to all use a certain level of just anticipation and situational awareness, and just kind of realize that we're sharing things, but to not give too many details, because it is the internet, and people, you just don't know. Okay, so Cecilia, back to your comment, because it was a good one. She says, I really thought my relationship was worth saving, so I put up with it. At the end, there I was, limiting contact, but she hated that. I'm sure that contributed to the end. So, yes, and here's the thing with the idea that the relationship is worth saving. So, any relationship, even abusive relationships, are generally not 100% bad. And so that's what can really be so crazy making is especially if you're getting, I call them thought holes. If you're falling into thought holes, if you're getting pushed into other people's thought holes of, you need to forgive and forget, and no one's perfect, and who are you to judge, and treat others like you want to be treated, or, family is forever. That's another one I just added to the list. Or, you know, um, these kinds of thinking, because everybody has their own idea of what abuse looks like, and if your relationship doesn't fit this, then they don't process it as abuse. Even if, like, this is what's so crazy, like, even if a person has a black eye and it fits their idea of abuse, if they know the abuser and they think, well, this person doesn't seem like a monster, like, he's really charismatic, he's really nice, to it doesn't register as this is abuse. They think, well, it must be because he had too much to drink, or she had too much to drink, right? It must be because she's under a lot of stress. It must be because of some sort of other reason other than this person has abusive behavior. And so that's why a lot of us tend to stay in these relationships, because it's the idea of it can be hard to figure out, like, well, what is fixable problematic behavior, and what is unfixable problematic behavior. And, you know, the only way for any of us to tell is really to give it time and to see, is this person changing? And of course, too, if it's extreme behavior that you're encountering, where there's name calling or physical abuse, those kinds of things tend to be more like outright, right? Like if you're being called names, if you're being devalued, if you're being physically abused, to me, that's, you know, not something that I would work on in therapy. It's like you get one shot, and if a person's physically abusive, that's game over. If a person's verbally abusive, to me, that's game over. And that's my own. And I, it's funny because everybody has their own like line for normal or acceptable behavior. But for me, it's like, I'm not looking for a project. I'm looking for a partner in friends and in dating somebody. So, but if it's sort of like, you we often don't have these realizations that it's okay to walk away until we go through a situation like this. And so I hope that for you, the lesson learned in this is it's okay for you to to have boundaries and to not stick around. I think a lot of us have a hard time with walking away. We feel obligated to it's again, it's that cultural mindset, right? Of like, it's for better or for worse. And so we want to stick through it and exhaust all options of like therapy and religion and love and hope and time. And but you don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to stay in any situation that is not healthy for you, regardless of what anybody else thinks or says. She says the physical chemistry was off the charts. It was a whirlwind. Yes, and that's very normal. There's a term, well, a kind of upfront, it's a term called love bombing. And so this whirlwind romance, I did a video on this. It's called something like, why is my whirlwind romance a red flag? And it was, well, you have to kind of watch the video, but a great movie that I think really shows what a whirlwind romance looks like in action is the movie How Stella Got Her Groove Back. And it shows this whirlwind romance between Stella and Winston, and there was no abuse in that relationship. It was this absolutely fairy tale type relationship, the kind of relationship everybody hopes they could have, right? And then, but the reality is, actually, like, this is true because that movie was actually based on Terry McMillan, the author's. It was her true story. The part of that, this surfaced about maybe 7 years or so after the movie was released. The truth was that Winston did turn out, came out of the closet that he was gay, and then he wanted a divorce. And of course, this was like right around the time that he was getting citizenship. And so basically, he had totally staged this whole thing. He used her completely for money, for contacts, for citizenship, for all of this. But that's a great example of what that whirlwind romance relationship looks like and feels like. And you can, if you now, I would encourage you to go watch that movie and watch it through the eyes of what you know now, and look at all of Stella's confusion and her questioning. Is this normal? Is it not normal? Is it me? Is it him? Is it because I just got divorced from an overt narcissist, which her ex-husband in the movie is? He's a selfish jerk, which we talked about earlier, right? So like, she goes from this like outright overt narcissist to super Prince Charming, and that's why she did the exact opposite of what she was getting out of, thinking that this was really healthy. And it's hard. It's hard to walk away from that whirlwind because that passion, that level of intensity is so amazing. But here's the thing, because a lot of people worry, they get worried and they think, I'll never find this again. This level of intensity, this sexual chemistry was just off the charts. You will. You will. And think about, it felt so good when it was wrong, but think about how amazing it will feel when it's right. And when you can really, really openly and honestly give yourself to somebody, and there's trust and there's honesty and there's that foundation of a solid relationship, and there's so many things that are right, and you're feeling nourished, and and you're being able to nourish this other person, and you have this amazing relationship. You will look back on your time with this manipulative person, and it's not even going to compare. And you were going to think to yourself, I can't even believe that I was worried about finding anything even like that again. Like, you know, it's just, it just I mean, the real, what's intense makes everything else just pale in comparison. Alex says, I wasn't love bombed. I pursued him. and then he turned the charm on. Yeah, that was kind of my dynamic with Steve. Even though I didn't pursue him, I was incredibly attracted to him. He was married. I wasn't wanting to get involved with a married man, and it was weird. Steve had found out that my this guy that I had dated after Jack, like a year after Jack and I broke up, I dated this other guy, and he had a really high end sports car. Somehow that came up in with some other friends of ours, and like when Steve found that out, like it was the weird. And I remember at the time thinking like that was so weird. He never, not. I mean, and he was married, so I didn't expect him to show an interest in anybody but his wife. But it's like it's like he never no, like there was never any sexual tension. There was never anything. And but like he found out that my ex had this really high end sports car, and all of a sudden I became like really attractive to him. And then he like super turned the charm on, and I really think it was that was why. I think that was the only reason why. It was sort of like, wow, if her ex has all this money and he thinks that she's a real catch, then I want her too. I really think like that was the like the shallowness of his thinking. It was just really really crazy. Um, let's see. Okay, Lotus Lady says, Dana, another excellent example of a movie is Netflix Jessica Jones. I have not seen or heard that, so let me write that down. Jessica Jones. Okay, Cecilia says, I really don't see myself finding someone that will genuinely be there for me. I have so much to get through. I'm dealing with complex post traumatic stress. I feel doomed. Cecilia, I was there too. And I think there's a lot of us have been there, and you can climb out of that hole. There is a future for you. Life is not always going to be this dark and this sad and lonely. It's not. It really, really is not. And I know this is going to sound really, really nuts, but I can honestly say, like I said, I had my life blown to pieces. I don't think I could have lost much more. I went through a miscarriage. I went through a bankruptcy and a foreclosure, and I lost a bunch of friends, and I lost myself, and I gained a bunch of weight, and I was suicidal, and it was awful. It was awful. But the cool thing when you have your life kind of blown apart like that is you get to choose the pieces that you rebuild with. And, you know, you can climb out of that hole. You really can. I think it just starts with making that decision of acknowledging, yeah, I have a lot to get through. I am in no way, shape, or form ready to date right now, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to stay like this. And so I remember I used to, sorry, I gotta shift positions here. This bar is killing me. I used to tell people, I used to joke about it. And if a guy showed any interest in me whatsoever, I would jokingly say like, "Oh, you don't want to date me. I am a hot mess." like, I'm going to do you the favor and just stop talking to you because like no, I mean, I was such a hot mess emotionally. And, but a lot of me, like getting out of becoming a hot mess had a lot to do with the words I was using when I was describing my situation. So like I had a guy friend of mine tell me, he's like, Dana, quit describing yourself as a hot mess. Like start there. Like this is temporary. Like don't make this into a permanent situation. Like reframe how you're describing the situation to yourself. And so the language that you're using of I feel doomed. This is understandably so. It's really heavy language, but letting yourself know like, yeah, you know what? Right now, my life has been really blown apart, but I'm going to get through this. I will rebuild. The best revenge is a good life. I can do this. You know, like other people have gotten through this and I can too. and you just start putting one foot in front of the other, and you just have faith in that. Because I will tell you, there is honestly, there is nothing special and unique about me or my ability to heal or any of this. It just started off with a series of decisions of, I'm not going to let this ruin my life. And then continuing to make decisions that took me in that direction of, the best revenge is a good life, and just channeling your energy into that. And I will tell you, it's been, several years now that I've gone through all of this, and I can honestly tell you now, everything that I went through, I am outrageously grateful for it. And I know that that sounds really crazy, but it brought to the surface so many issues, and blind spots that I had that that I was not aware of. And like we talked about before, and we're all going to have different realizations. We all have different blind spots. So I'm not saying that my blind spots are yours or vice versa, but the big aha moment for me was, I was not in alignment with who I really was. And I wasn't listening to my inner voice, not just about avoiding red flags, but about in general. I had done a lot of things up to that point that I didn't want to do. I was living my life kind of based out of shoulds. Like, I should go to college and, major in certain things. I should, go out with this guy again because he is a nice guy and I should be attracted to a nice guy, instead of realizing he's a nice guy, but I'm just not attracted to him. Or I should be friends with this person, when in fact, like, they're not a really good friend. So my judgment, my confidence in myself, my ability to listen to my inner guidance system was really, really off. And I didn't realize it. It took me going through, like I said, a couple of these relationships to really learn that lesson. And I think that's a lesson. It's, again, this stuff is not taught in school. It's something that we can all benefit from. I don't think that anybody goes through life thinking, being that in tune with, kind of that like, their emotional inner guidance system. But if you are, like, I'm telling you that there's so much amazingness that's going to come from that. If you can tap into that and learn to really listen to your inner voice, and it talks to us all day long. Like, that's what's so crazy. It's not just like in dangerous situations. It's all day long. And to really to tune into that, your life will change in like radical, amazing ways that you cannot even begin to comprehend. And this is why, it's just, I guess and again, I'm kind of this outsider looking in, you know, back into the situation where it's like, I see where you guys are. Like, you're at this new chapter in your life, and it's so painful. And I know it's so painful, but in so many ways, it's like things need to break in order to be rebuilt, because the foundation that this was being built on was, this relationship was being built on sand. You didn't realize it, right? This is why this is not your fault at all. Because if any of us had realized we were building a future, on sand, we wouldn't have been doing that. But again, it kind of goes back to like listening to yourself again. That's just reclaiming your power. So you scroll up and look at. Um, oh, Oh, thank you for sharing that, Kate. So just Kate says, I joined the meetup.com. It's been great. Went out for Halloween to a dance, and then went horseback riding, met some nice new people. Yes, that's what I love to hear. And I there's oh man, there's so many things that I want to do with this YouTube channel, and one of them is, I really would like to, kind of capture these different moments of like healing and thriving and kind of like what people, how kind of where people are now, because there's lots of people out there that um you know um that have gone on to do like really great, fantastic. Oh, sorry, I've got to block somebody here. Okay. um Brett says that that spammer is spitting out narcissistic magic. There's somebody like leaving a bunch of crazy digital comments. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, I just blocked that person. So they're there. Um, what? I'm sorry, I get distracted. Alex says, "WTF is that Klingon?" That's hilarious. Oh, I like that. Awful Mediocrity says, "Revenge is negative, renewal is positive." Yes, yes, I like that. I like that very, very much. Um, okay, Cecilia says the CPTSD is also known as developmental trauma. Yes, your current state stems from my childhood. Okay. And if that is the case, there's lots of things that can be done for all different forms of PTSD. That complex PTSD that you're describing is also very common after one of these types of relationships. And so, there's a therapy. I was just talking to somebody today, and I don't know. I'm sure that there's a different name for it, and I can't think of it right now. But it's a like a tapping therapy that helps people to like release different emotions. There's so many different resources out there that I would encourage you to look into. If you can go to therapy, a lot of domestic violence shelters offer, or at least have connections to either free or really, really reduced therapy. And they tend to not have a limit on how many times you can go. So that might be something worthwhile to do, is to call like your local domestic violence shelter, let them know that you've been in a couple of different traumatic and abusive situations, and if they have any connection to a therapist or any type of resources that they can give for you. um, let's see. Sorry, I got to catch up on the conversation here a little bit. Okay, Alex says, Dana, I'm so glad you survived and you are here for us. Me too. And here's the pretty crazy thing. So, this was how I think like what really helped me to reframe everything that I went through and really helped me to move forward with healing. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the last live stream or not, but when I was working at the domestic violence shelter, I knew then that was really what I wanted to do with my life. I just felt so tapped in to my purpose. I just loved it. And this was before I found out anything about Jack. This was years before I even met Steve. And it was so weird because, like, I used to, this, and then just just hear me out for what I'm saying. But one of my ongoing prayers was, dear God, please help me to help them. Because I often felt so at a loss for the right words. And so helpless and frustrated because we oftentimes had the same women coming in time and time again, and it was like they were in these same types of relationships, but it was with a different guy each time. And, and it's just weird because it's like my life fell apart big time after that. And then, several, and I just kept going through all of this stuff, and I was trying to make sense of it. And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't deserve this. I'm a good person. I don't, why? Like, why me? And it wasn't until probably after Steve, maybe about, I don't even know how long after Steve, but it was just kind of this realization of, now that I've gone through all of this, look at how many people are going to be able to relate to my story. And how many people, there's so much good that can come from this. And that was, I think, what gave me a lot of peace about everything, was just the realization of, yeah, okay. So I'm going to just talk about my story, and let people know that, yeah, this is, because we all carry this stuff around with us. So, and we all think that we're so alone in our pain, right? And that's what's so saddening and frustrating, is like, if we go through a bankruptcy or a foreclosure or an abusive relationship or a miscarriage or any of these things, when we're going through it, there's there's embarrassment, there's shame, there's guilt, there's confusion, there's grief, there's all these things, and we feel so alone in those emotions. But everybody carries something. And it can be really nice to just to hear other people, like, yes, this is what I went through, and these were the mistakes that I made, and these are the things that I thought I was doing right that ended up being mistakes, and here's where I am today, and I can totally own all of this, and I can talk openly about it. And it's just, this is part of my journey through life, and you'll have your story too. And I hope that you take your story, and your children or your grandchildren or people that you don't even know, like, learn from this, and they see that you live your life as just kind of this tribute to, like, your inner strength. And so people hear your story and they think to themselves, wow, that person was able to really move forward and to really heal from this, and they owned their stuff, and knowing that, like, then I can too. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, giving your pain a purpose. Like, there's so much strength and healing that can just come from that, and realizing that you don't have to carry all this stuff alone. So, okay, I missed part of the conversation. Now we're talking. Now it's a female abusers and male abusers kind of thing. What did I miss? I'm going to guess what I missed, but I don't. Let's see. I hate guessing. So let me see. Okay, I think this is where the conversation started. Why are there so many male abusers? Well, I think there's probably a lot of different reasons for that. I think, abuse, the core of abuse has to do, like, kind of what drives abusive behavior has to do with power and control. And so, I you can kind of look at different societies where you've got whoever tends to be in power and control. It's more common for them to abuse the power and control since they're the ones that have it. But I think it's really important to know too, or to at least talk about the fact that, abuse doesn't discriminate, that there are, female abusers, and, children, parent, like, an abusive person can be a parent, a child, a neighbor, a friend, a family member, a priest, abuse does not see age, it does not see gender or sexual orientation or, socioeconomic status, like none of that. And, so it's, it's out there. I almost, it's interesting because all of my training when I was working at the domestic violence shelter had to do with t- only, I mean, it's only talking about male abusers. And this is problematic in a lot of different ways, right? Because you have lesbians, right? You have gay women that are abusive. You have you have maybe like you have transvestites that are abusive. You have transsexuals that are abusive. You have women that are abusive to men. You have, there's lots of different dynamics there that where abuse can be present. So I am pretty irritated like that I was only that the conversation that we were continually having about abuse was so focused on male abusers, because to me it's not a female issue, it's a human issue. And not even just a human issue, it's an issue because there's animal abuse too. So abusive behavior in any way, shape, or form is problematic and it's not okay. And so you know here's kind of the thing too with men. I didn't realize this, and so I talked about this in the last live stream. Like, there's a lot of things that I wish I had done differently, but I did the best I could, and that's all any of us can do. When I started this channel, I did the best I could with what I knew at the time, and my focus was really on male abusers and female victims, and I only felt comfortable sharing my stories in my life, and obviously not comfortable sharing other people's stories unless they had said that that was okay. And so all of my earlier videos, especially with the red flags of the narcissist series, had to do with talking about male abusers. Well, the unintentional consequence of that was that I had a lot of men that were messaging me and they were saying, Dana, please, we need help too. And we're going through this. And it's even, you females think that they aren't supported and understood. Like, try being a guy. Like, people don't understand, how can you be this big, beefcakey guy? You're twice the size of this woman. How on earth is how is she beating you up? Like, how does that even work? And there's a lot of men that tend to stay in these dynamics because they know that if they go to court, the kids are probably going to go with the women. And and by and large, with even personality disorders, I feel my heart really goes out to all victims of abuse, but men, man, like I hadn't thought about like the different social and cultural dynamics that are at play with them trying to get help, because they would go into therapy and there's kind of this like whole social stigma, right? That like, well, women are just difficult, or it's PMS, or she just had a baby, or it's because she's hot that she's crazy, or it must be because the man's not doing something. He needs to be more attentive, or something like that. And so oftentimes it's, if a woman is abusive, she's more likely to be labeled borderline personality disorder, if anything, maybe histrionic, but it's not going to be generally considered abuse unless you have a really skilled therapist that's going to be able to spot, to get rid of that gender bias, and they're going to be able to spot, this is emotional abuse, this is verbal abuse, like you're in an abusive relationship, like it's not normal or healthy to be talked to or treated like this. Whereas like men, it's more common if a woman's going into therapy, and of course more women go into therapy than men. So men tend to not seek out help for what they're going through because, culturally and socially and all these things. But if a woman's going to therapy, she's going to be more likely to get a therapist is going to say, wow, he really sounds like a narcissist, or it sounds like you're in an abusive relationship, or this guy sounds like a sociopath or an antisocial. So she's, and of course, clarity is hard for any of us to get, but if anybody's going to get clarity sooner, it's probably going to be females. So there's just tons and tons of issues. Cecilia says, my therapist met my ex. She really liked him. Yeah, that's not uncommon. I mean, a lot of them are incredibly superficially charming, and like they're the Bill Cosbys and the Scott Petersons of the world. So it's that's the added crazy making thing, right? And so then the victim really thinks like, well, maybe I am the problem, because if a therapist who's trained, supposedly trained in, diagnosing personality disorders, and who's got these, emotional health skills, if they're not seeing that it's a problem, then I must be the problem, when in the reality it's, these people are incredibly charming. If a therapist meets them, of course they're going to be on their best behavior. It's going to be for maybe like what, a 45 minute session. um, it's they can fly under the radar of even some of the best therapists out there. This is why if you're going to go into, um, you know, see a therapist for recovery of any kind, you really want to find out if they are highly skilled with like emotional abuse, physical abuse, and then to talk to them in more depth over the phone about kind of what treatments they, kind of what is their therapeutic approach, and are they familiar with PTSD after an abusive relationship, and to interview them. Like that's the thing. Like with any professional, with anything in your life, right? Like this is about you. And if you don't have a rapport with somebody, with a professional of any kind, over the phone, then call somebody else. Um, you know, until you can find that connection. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So CC says, yeah, my therapist totally missed my narcissist mother. Yeah, a lot of them do. It's just and again, like we all have these like blind spots in our thinking, even therapists, and they're people too. So it's this idea of, well, but she's your mother, right? So like family, kind of this whole idea of like family at all cost. And it's they can really play the great victim card, and they can really play the whole that they really want, if they're really charming, like if they have that kind of emotional insight, which is kind of more on like the antisocial end of the spectrum, then they can give great lip service as to faking self-awareness. And so they can say like, oh yes, I'm really willing to work on change, and I want this relationship to work. And they can do a great job at talking. It's just their actions don't line up for long. And there's just so many levels of crazy making, because how on earth would how on earth would any of us known that that's what, abusive an abusive dynamic looks like, or an abusive relationship looks like? I mean, if you really think, most of us walk around thinking that we're interacting and dealing with like other normal, decent, balanced human beings that are, that want to be happy, and they want to be in a balanced, stable relationship. It doesn't even cross our mind that a person could, that they don't want a solution. Like they want to continue with all of this, like this. It's got to be just emotionally exhausting. I can't imagine to be a narcissist, or to be, sociopath or psychopath, and just the level of energy with the lies and the manipulation and the cheating and the stealing and the spinning and the this and the that. It's just like, oh my God, like why can't you just chill and just be normal and be happy? But it's, we tend to hang in there for a long time. So, okay, yes. True Life says, Dana, you've dried my tears more time than you can know. Thank you so much for letting me know that. And I'm glad that I, am able to do that for you. And, that that these live streams are helping, and that the support groups are helping. And that's what it's all about. So let's see. We'll leave here in about 2 more minutes, just so we can all say goodbye and good night. Hey, it's Adrian. Hi, I'm great. How are you? Um, Lotus Lady says, yes, even narcissists and ASPD researchers have admitted to being charmed and deceived. Yep. So, okay, Jody asks real quick, is it genetic? Um, the information that I have seen is no, that it's more of like a personality. It's a personality disorder. So it's more of a nurture versus nature. But my guess is that there is a genetic component to it that we just haven't discovered that yet. Because, like, kind of what I talked about earlier, there's you know, a lot of people that parents and stuff, you know, that have said like their other kids are fine. It's just this one child has been a problem child since really young, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing overly traumatic happened to him. So there's something going on there that I just don't think has been discovered yet. Okay, just Kate says, Dana, my narcissist failed a lie detector test. I thought they passed them. Um, well, I mean, some do, some don't. I think it depends on how good of a liar they are and how convincing they are to themselves. You know, this person always thought that they were a decent enough liar to have the nerve to take a lie detector test when they knew that they weren't going to pass it. Let's see. I'm going to write down some of these terms that you guys were looking for. Toxic relationship. Um, Whoa. Cecilia says, my ex said the first time we were together, isn't it fun to date a narcissist? That was my first clue. Yeah, that's a red flag. So there's kind of like this thing out there, right? That, um, and there's a lot of truth to this. Like, if you're with a narcissist, if you ask them, hey, are you a narcissist? They'll tell you yes. And it's not that they're referring to narcissist as in like a personality disorder. They're referring to it as like what most people think of when they think of a narcissist of, do you think that you're God's gift is basically what they think that you're asking. And then they're going to tell you, yeah, I totally think I'm God's gift. I'm amazing. If a person says that they think that they're God's gift and that that they're a narcissist and they're proud of it, that's a problem. Like, run. Like, that's your sign. However, but like the more manipulative ones, like, again, kind of more on that like antisocial end of the spectrum, they tend to be very charming. They will tell you the exact opposite. That you're being hyper vigilant, that that they're not a narcissist, that they're very caring, that they're very empathic, that they're very very giving. They come across, they really are like that wolf in sheep's clothing, whereas more of like that overt narcissist. Okay, somebody mentioned Donald Trump. Yes. So that is and I he's kind of more of like the obvious type narcissist, but um you know there's kind of like different wolves in different clothing, right? So like you have the wolf in wolf's clothing, which to me is like the narcissist. Then you have the wolf in sheep's clothing, which tends to be more of like the antisocial end of the spectrum. And then you have the sheep in wolf's clothing, which is the nice guy or nice girl that looks bad, but they're not. So this is why it can be so hard to determine kind of who's who, because you have like I said, like you have the sheep and wolf's clothing. Like these are the people that are like oh, they volunteer, like the biker people that are like in biker gangs, and they've got tattoos and leather jackets and they're intimidating looking, but they like volunteer and they're like a Shriner, and you know what I mean, like they're, so yeah, that's different kinds of people that are out there. And then I guess there's the sheeps in sheep's clothing, which I think is probably what a lot of us are. We're just kind of obviously like, normal, decent people doing normal, decent things. And, um, thanks, Will. Um, okay, guys, I think I'm ready to call it a night. I am going to go to bed, and So if you are up for it, we'll do this. We'll just keep doing this on Wednesdays, and let me know in the comments down below what what we can do, what I can do better, what if you want me to kind of prepare more of a topic, if there's something that I can do to give more support. Let me know. I will see what I can do. Somebody had mentioned going back through and then doing like time stamps on these. I will see about doing that because they're like 2.5 hours, and but yeah, I will see what I can do. So okay, guys, love you lots. Have a great night. You are not alone in this. You are not crazy, and you really can move forward and heal. So just one foot in front of the other in the direction that you want to head. It's what it is. So take care, and I will see you guys next week. Okay, bye.